What if I told you the person who loves you most is fighting a battle you'll never see, and that battle has your face at the center of it? They don't fear loving you. They fear what loving you forces them to confront about themselves. When this person first entered your life, something unexpected happened inside them. It was not the kind of attraction they had imagined for themselves. In fact, if they were being completely honest, you may not have fit the picture they once carried in their mind. For years, they had built unconscious expectations about who they would fall in love with, what that person would look like, and how attraction was supposed to unfold. These expectations were not entirely their own. They were shaped by family influences, social standards, past experiences, and countless messages absorbed without question. Then you appeared, and suddenly their carefully constructed image began to crack. What drew them to you was not something they could easily explain to others. It was not a feature, a style, or a physical trait that immediately captured their attention. It was something deeper. Perhaps it was the way you carried yourself when no one was watching. Perhaps it was the honesty in your words, the warmth in your presence, or the feeling of safety they experienced around you. Whatever it was, it reached a place inside them that had been untouched for a long time. This is where their confusion began. They expected attraction to feel simple. They thought love would arrive neatly packaged inside a person who matched all their expectations. Instead, they found themselves thinking about you constantly. They looked forward to your messages. They replayed conversations in their mind long after they ended. They felt comfort when you were near and a strange emptiness when you were absent. Yet at the same time, they were forced to confront a reality that challenged their previous assumptions. Part of them could not understand why their feelings were becoming so strong. They kept searching for logical explanations. They compared you to the image they once believed they wanted. They noticed differences. They questioned themselves. They wondered why their heart seemed determined to move in a direction their mind had not planned for. The more they resisted, the more their emotional connection grew. What frightened them was not your appearance itself. What frightened them was what their attraction to you revealed about them. It exposed how much of their understanding of love had been based on external expectations rather than genuine emotional truth. It forced them to see that real connection often arrives in forms we do not anticipate. There were moments when they tried to focus on the things that made them uncertain. They told themselves they should be more practical. They convinced themselves they should follow the standards they had always believed in. But every time they attempted to create distance, something pulled them back. Your presence continued to affect them. Your voice lingered in their thoughts. Your personality kept revealing layers that made you more meaningful, not less. Slowly, they began to realize that attraction is far more complex than they once believed. The qualities that initially seemed secondary became impossible to ignore. Your kindness became attractive. Your resilience became attractive. Your authenticity became attractive. Even the things they once questioned started to feel connected to the person they had come to admire, and that realization placed them in an uncomfortable position. Because now they had to decide whether they would trust the connection they genuinely felt, or remain loyal to expectations that no longer reflected the truth of their experience. The deeper their feelings grew, the harder it became to pretend that what existed between you was ordinary. As their feelings for you deepen, a quiet struggle begins to unfold within them. It is not a struggle between loving you and not loving you. That question has already been answered by their heart. The real struggle is between the person standing before them and the idealized image they have carried for years. Every human being holds unconscious pictures of what love, beauty, and partnership should look like. These pictures are often formed long before we realize they exist. They are built from childhood memories, cultural messages, personal fantasies, and the examples we observe throughout life. Most people never question these inner images. They simply assume they are reality. Then someone comes along who challenges them. You challenge them not because you are lacking something, but because your presence exposes the difference between fantasy and reality. Before meeting you, they believed attraction would follow a predictable path. They assumed they would feel drawn to a specific type of person, someone who matched the image in their mind. Yet their emotional connection with you refuses to follow those rules. It grows stronger despite the expectations they once trusted. This creates an internal tension that is difficult to explain. On one side stands the image they have always carried. On the other stands the genuine connection they feel with you. Neither side disappears. The conflict remains active beneath the surface, influencing their thoughts in ways they may not even fully understand. There are moments when they feel completely certain about you. In those moments, your appearance becomes almost irrelevant. What matters is the way you make them feel. What matters is the emotional depth they experience in your presence. They feel understood. They feel seen. They feel connected in a way that is rare and difficult to find. Then another moment arrives. A doubt emerges from old conditioning. An expectation resurfaces. A comparison appears without invitation. Suddenly they find themselves questioning feelings that only hours before felt undeniable. This cycle can be exhausting. They may even become frustrated with themselves. Part of them knows that what they feel is real, yet another part continues to measure reality against an outdated standard. What makes this struggle even more painful is that they often feel guilty for having it. Deep down, they know that authentic love should not be reduced to appearances. They know that emotional connection carries more weight than superficial ideals. Yet awareness alone does not erase years of conditioning. The mind rarely releases old beliefs overnight. As a result, they may appear inconsistent. One day they seem fully invested, fully present, and emotionally open. The next day they become distant, thoughtful, or uncertain. From the outside, this behavior can feel confusing. But internally, they are wrestling with two different versions of themselves. One version seeks safety in familiar expectations. The other is being transformed by the reality of what they feel for you. The remarkable thing is that your presence keeps challenging those old beliefs. Every meaningful conversation, every shared experience, every moment of genuine connection weakens the power of the image they once worshipped. Reality begins proving itself stronger than fantasy. They slowly discover that the qualities they value most cannot be captured in a photograph or described by a simple list of preferences. And as this realization grows, they begin to understand something that changes them forever. The person they imagined loving was only an idea, but the feelings they have for you are real. Once they begin to recognize that their feelings for you are real, a new challenge emerges, one that is often far more powerful than their private doubts. It is the fear of judgment. Many people like to believe that their choices are entirely their own, but the truth is that human beings are deeply influenced by the opinions of others. Even those who appear confident and independent can carry an invisible need for approval. This need often remains hidden until they are faced with a decision that forces them to choose between what they genuinely feel and what they believe others expect from them. This is the stage where their internal conflict becomes heavier. Before, the struggle existed mostly between their emotions and their personal expectations. Now another voice enters the conversation. It is the voice of society, family, friends, and all the people whose opinions have shaped them throughout life. Suddenly, loving you is no longer just about their feelings. It becomes connected to how they imagine others will react. They begin asking questions they never wanted to ask. What will people think? Will others understand this relationship? Will they approve? Will they criticize? Will they question my choices? These thoughts may seem superficial, but they carry enormous weight. Human beings have always feared rejection from their social group. Deep within the psyche, acceptance feels safe, while judgment feels threatening. What makes this fear so difficult is that it often disguises itself as logic. They may convince themselves they are simply being practical. They may tell themselves they are thinking about the future. They may search for reasons to justify their hesitation. Yet beneath these explanations lies a deeper concern. The possibility of being judged for following their heart. The more they care about you, the more intense this struggle becomes. If their feelings were weak, walking away would be easy. They could simply follow the path of least resistance and never look back. But because their connection with you is meaningful, they cannot escape it so easily. Every attempt to distance themselves creates emotional discomfort. Every effort to ignore their feelings leaves them feeling incomplete. At times, they may even pull away unexpectedly, not because their love has diminished, but because the pressure has increased. They retreat into themselves, trying to make sense of what they feel. They imagine conversations that have not happened yet. They anticipate criticism that may never come. They create scenarios in their mind where they must defend their feelings to people who may never fully understand them. What they are truly confronting is not you. It is their own fear of standing apart from the crowd. Loving you requires courage because it demands authenticity. It asks them to trust their direct experience rather than the expectations they have inherited from others. It forces them to decide whether they will live according to external approval or internal truth. This decision is rarely made in a single moment. It unfolds gradually. Every time they choose to listen to their heart, they weaken the power of fear. Every time they remember how deeply you affect them, the opinions of others lose a little more influence. Slowly they begin to see that the people around them do not have to live with the consequences of their choices. They do. And that realization becomes impossible to ignore, because they start understanding that losing the approval of others may be painful, but losing someone they genuinely love could be a regret that follows them for the rest of their life. After all the confusion, all the doubt, and all the fear of judgment, a moment eventually arrives when they can no longer avoid the truth. They have spent so much time analyzing their feelings, questioning themselves, comparing reality to expectations, and imagining the opinions of others that they become emotionally exhausted. There comes a point when the mind runs out of arguments. The endless inner debate begins to lose its power. What remains is something much simpler and much harder to deny: the way they feel whenever they are with you. This is where the deepest transformation begins. For a long time, they believed love was about finding someone who matched an image. They thought attraction depended on certain conditions being met. They assumed that if they found the right person, everything would feel easy and natural from the beginning. But life rarely unfolds according to the plans we create in our imagination. Real love has a way of challenging assumptions. It enters through unexpected doors and asks difficult questions. The longer they stay connected to you, the more they realize that the qualities they once considered important are not what keeps drawing them back. It is not an image that comforts them during difficult moments. It is not an ideal that understands their fears, listens to their thoughts, or makes them feel seen. What continues to pull them toward you is something much deeper. It is the emotional reality of who you are. Slowly they begin to see that the thing they struggled with was never truly about your appearance. It was about their attachment to an expectation. The conflict existed because they were trying to fit a real human being into a picture that was never designed to hold reality. No person could ever perfectly match an imagined ideal because ideals do not breathe, feel, grow, or love. They exist only in the mind. You, however, are real, and reality carries a power that fantasy can never possess. As this understanding grows, something shifts inside them. They stop focusing on what makes you different from their expectations and begin appreciating what makes you uniquely yourself. The features they once questioned become connected to memories they treasure. The things they once noticed with uncertainty become inseparable from the person they have come to care about. What once seemed like an obstacle begins to feel meaningful because it belongs to you. This is the moment acceptance starts replacing resistance. Instead of asking whether you fit the image they once carried, they begin asking a completely different question. Can I imagine my life without this person? The answer becomes increasingly difficult to ignore. They realize that what matters most is not whether you satisfy an old expectation, but whether your absence would leave an emptiness nothing else could fill. In accepting you, they are also accepting a new version of themselves, a version that values authenticity over appearances, a version that trusts personal experience over social conditioning, a version that understands that genuine love is not about finding perfection but about recognizing significance. The walls they built around their expectations begin to fall. The need for external approval weakens. The fear of judgment loses its grip. The image they once protected so carefully fades into the background. In its place stands something far more valuable, a real connection with a real person. And for the first time, they understand that love was never asking them to change you. It was asking them to change the way they see. Before you leave, remember this. The people who are meant for you will eventually face a choice. They can continue chasing perfect images created by the world, or they can embrace the rare connection standing right in front of them. If someone truly loves you, their greatest battle is never with your appearance. It is with the fears, expectations, and illusions they carry inside themselves. And sooner or later, They must decide whether those illusions are worth losing someone who genuinely touches their soul. Never underestimate your value because someone is confused. Never question your worth because someone is struggling. Their hesitation is not proof that you are unlovable. Sometimes it is proof that your presence is forcing them to confront truths they have avoided their entire life. The most powerful love stories are not born when two perfect people meet. They are born when two imperfect people choose authenticity over illusion, courage over fear, and acceptance over judgment. So if this message found you today, let it remind you of one thing. You do not need to change your face, your body, or your uniqueness to become worthy of love. The right person will not love you after you become someone else. They will love you when they finally learn to see who you have been all along. Thank you for watching. If this message touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear these words. Until next time, protect your peace, trust your worth, and remember, the people who are truly meant for you will eventually choose your reality over their fantasy. Thank you and goodbye. Note thank you for spending these moments with me and allowing this message to become part of your journey. If today's reflection spoke to your heart, remember this. Your worth has never been determined by someone else's expectations, opinions, or standards. The right person will not love you because you are perfect. They will love you because they finally learned to see the beauty that was there all along. Sometimes the deepest connections challenge people to grow beyond their fears, their conditioning, and the images they have carried for years. And when that growth happens, love becomes more than attraction. It becomes acceptance. As you move forward, never shrink yourself to fit someone else's idea of who you should be. The people who are meant to find you will recognize your value, not despite your uniqueness, but because of it. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and thank you for sharing this journey with me. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who may need these words today. Until next time, take care of yourself, trust your path, and remember, the most powerful relationships begin when we stop chasing perfection and start embracing truth. Goodbye for now, and may peace, clarity, and genuine love follow you wherever life leads.